here with you. I wanted to tell you that I went to school with Robert Beadle Tibbs, and we went all the way from elementary school, Helbeck, on to Pitts, and then, of course, into South. And I had the privilege of getting to know this family very, very well. And really, like many of you, well, I ate at the Tibbs house as well. And it seems like food is quite a big thing for them, and I was kind of glad about that. It's my assignment today to read about 6 pages. Beadle knows I played a lot of football, and I don't know why he would ever make me read 6 pages, but I'm going to read to you in just a few moments. But I want to tell you a personal story first. When I was growing up in high school with Beadle, and we got to know each other very, very well. And then, of course, we would grow up and have our own families. And my son would run track, and Beadle's son would run track, and Colt would graduate from Pueblo West, and my son would, well, he'd still be at County. And when I was in high school, we won the 4x4 championship. We broke the state record, and Beadle was playing baseball at the time, and he wasn't able to watch us run. And then when my son went to run for County, when he went to the state championship to run, Beadle called me up and he said, "Hey, Steve, I want to go watch your boy run." And when we went to Denver and we were going to go watch Jordan run, Beadle met us there and he said, I want you to meet me at this hotel. And Beadle bought our hotel that night. And he didn't even have any kids playing or running. And not only that, but Beadle also, he took us out to eat an incredible steak dinner. And my wife was just so blown away by just the kindness. And Beadle, I think I understand a little bit more today where a lot of that came from. You learned that from your mama. And I don't know if I ever said thank you enough, but Beadle, I love you. And I know you're hurting today, sir, and I just want to come alongside of you. And today I want to read the eulogy, and Beadle has written the eulogy, and I'm going to read it on his behalf. And it's 6 pages long, but I think you'll love these words. Beadle says, "My mom, Lorraine Bernadette, was born on March 22nd in 1944 in Walsenburg, Colorado, to Joe and Bernice Garbiso. And my grandpa was the night watchman for the mine and also worked at the weigh scales during the day. She had 2 older sisters. Their names were Marie and Connie, and she had a younger brother named Leroy. Their family grew up in a home heated by coal, including a coal stove for cooking. And the home didn't have plumbing, but they had a cistern and an outhouse for a bathroom. And in 1962, at the age of 18, well, my mom graduated from Walsenburg High School, and she would move to Denver, Colorado. In Denver, 1963, my dad pulled into a car hop with his girlfriend. Interesting. And for those of you who don't know what a car hop is, well, it's similar to a Sonic in today's world. Well, but after seeing my mom who worked there, he took his date home and came back and asked my mom out. She said yes. It was love at first sight. It really was. My grandpa Joe took a big liking to my dad because he was a hard worker, and he would have projects for him, and they would come down on weekends from Denver. One project was digging a hole for a new outhouse, and my dad dug and shoveled all day. He shoveled dirt all day, and my grandpa would lower down to him iced tea so that he would keep shoveling. My mom and dad were married on November the 15th, 1963. They made Walsenburg their home. In the fall of 1964, we traveled to Illinois for the first time to meet my dad's side of the family, and there was a lot of them. My dad comes from a family of 14 siblings, 9 brothers, 5 sisters, and one of my mom's gifts, as we know, was her charisma. She was easygoing, easy to get along with, and easy to love. She quickly became part of the family. She created many lifelong bonds, and many of those people traveled from out of town to celebrate her life today, and they want to say thank you for that. In January 1968, my dad was hired by the Pueblo Police Department, and he moved from Walsenburg to Pueblo. We lived in a duplex on the corner of 4th Street in Portland on the east side. Well, we lived there for about 6 months and then moved to the south side on a little street called Eden. And my mom was fun, and I remember going downtown on Friday and Saturday nights as a young kid. I was about 5 years old. My dad was a motorcycle cop, and he patrolled Main Street on weekends. Well, my mom, Chonita Intencio, her daughters, Larissa, and I would pack up in the Volkswagen that my mom drove, and we would take dinner down to my dad on Main Street. Well, we would drag up Main Street and down Court Street like the high school kids. But again, I was only 5. And there was no car seats either. We'd be hanging out the windows, watching the other cars drag on Main. My mom was only 25 around that time, and she was a young mom. She knew how to have a good time, and she lived by her own rules and didn't care what other people thought about her. She just lived for the moment. Our second trip to Illinois was in 1969 for a family reunion. Well, the Tibbs reunions were always packed with people. The men would put together poker games every night to brag on who was the best. My mom asked to get into one of the poker games and was welcomed, thinking she didn't know how to play poker and they were going to take all of her money. To much of their surprise, she took all of their money and their pride. And my mom learned to play poker back in Walsenburg with her dad. Coal miners take poker very seriously, and my mom was able to learn their skills. From that day forward, they always had a seat at the poker table for my mom to try and win back the money, but that never happened. In 1970, my brother Sean Allen was born, and well, we outgrew the 2-bedroom house on Eden, so we moved up over to 2944 Astor. Back in those days, there were 20 kids in the neighborhood. We rode bikes, played baseball and football. We were outside until dark. I remember this kid who was kind of a bully in the neighborhood. Well, he was 4 years older than me, and he would always pick me up, and he would always give me a hard time. And one day, while I was riding my bike in the street, he pushed me over on purpose. Well, my mom was standing on the front porch. Seeing this happen, she went out and grabbed this kid, threw him down on the ground, and told him if he ever messes with me again. Well, that day he went home crying. Later the afternoon, his dad came walking around the corner and walked to my mother. Turns out my mother did all the talking and told him that if his boy ever bullied me anymore, he was going to have big problems. The gentleman turned around and went home, and I never had another problem with that kid again. My mom had good instincts, a good conscience. She wasn't afraid to put you in place if you needed it. I love that about her. My mom worked in banking, landing as the bank manager at the Sunset Park of American Federal Savings and rising to the bank supervisor. Well, people loved to work with her. She had a photogenic mind, and whenever there was a mistake and a teller couldn't balance the books, my mom could take care of their logs and figure out where they had transposed a number and gave out the extra money just by looking at the logs and talking to a teller. She had a beautiful mind. She was a great talent. She was able to spell words backwards faster than you could spell them forward. I would always have her impress my friends by spelling their names backwards faster than they could spell it forward, and letting them give her any word and she would quickly spell it backwards for them. My mom cooked like a chef. She would come home from work and make us a satisfying meal of meat and potatoes. In true chef fashion, she would seamlessly cook for large crowds of people. And my friends were amazed at how good her food was, and they made it their mission to eat at our house as much as possible, especially my high school buddy, Ricky Graham. Well, he never had a tortilla until he came to our house, and he got to have one of my mom's homemade tortillas. Can we see a raise of hands for anyone who has tried Lorraine's homemade tortillas? Okay, I kind of had a feeling about that. They were special. They were perfectly round, slightly thicker than a usual tortilla. And she would knock out a dozen of them in 20 minutes from scratch. Some of her other specialties were beef enchiladas, green chili, Mexican macaroni. We never ate out much growing up because of my mom. And this is one of the many ways in which she cared for our family. My dad especially loved my mom's cooking, and she knew just how to cook the meals my dad grew up with: fried chicken, mashed potatoes with gravy, and iced tea. Ladies and gentlemen, is anybody getting hungry yet? My mom drove a yellow 1985 Chevy Camaro, and she drove it like she stole it. She really never had to worry about getting a speeding ticket because all the policemen knew who she was in that yellow Camaro. That was her personality. She always tested the limits. 1974, my mom was asked to play competitive softball. She hadn't played much, but with every practice, she got better and better. And by the first game, she was playing shortstop and she was dominating. She went on to win MVP and plenty of all tournament teams throughout her career. She had an unorthodox sidearm and she was naturally athletic. And when I got older and was asked to play tournaments, they would say, "Can your mom play on the team?" And they knew that she could play baseball with the best of them. She moved from the field to the sidelines to cheer for me and later her grandkids. She was a fierce athlete. She turned fierce spectator, making friends with all of the people in our team and maybe a couple of enemies on the other team. My mom went to Las Vegas for the first time in 1984. She absolutely loved it. She loved the bright lights, the hustle, the bustle, the slot machines. And my dad and my mom, they would make many trips with friends and family throughout those years, getting a timeshare at the Jockey Club. She would go on 4 hours of sleep for days. I remember when she was winning us on a winning streak, and she brought everything from the Disney store, and she brought it home for her grandkids. And she loved to shop and buy presents for all the family and the friends. She was such a generous woman. And one year we all went to Las Vegas for an Oscar de la Hoya fight, and we were at the Mandalay Bay, and all the movie stars and the boxers were walking through the concourse. And I spotted George Foreman walking, and I tried to get a picture there so I could see my mom, but I saw my mom hanging on his shoulders. And he gave her a big hug. And my mom loved her daughter-in-laws, Terry and Jennifer, so very much. The three of them took care of our whole family. As a grandma, you couldn't ask for a more loving person. She would do anything and everything for her grandkids. She cared for them so beautifully, washing their hair, letting them play freely in front of their many, many mirrors, cooking for them, taking them to Patty's restaurant, and making every Christmas and holiday very, very special. Speaking of Christmas, she didn't think she was Santa Claus, and she had to buy gifts for everybody. She had no budget. So one year we decided to draw names, and everybody drew a name and got a present for that person that they drew, but Lorraine still bought a present for everybody. And that went on for many years. She just couldn't grasp the concept. You could always tell her presents beautifully wrapped with bows and filled with really good, beautiful, thoughtful gifts. My mom retired right after my dad in the year 2000. That's when she started doing things that she never had time to do while working, like canning and baking and making blankets. She gathered with her friends who enjoyed the entertainment of being around my mom. My mom kept a very clean house. It was always vacuumed. It was always dusted, swept. Sheets were cleaned. Anything that was supposed to be white had been bleached white. It wasn't Clorox white. It was brown to her. If it wasn't Clorox white, it was brown to her. And when she was done cleaning her house, she would move on to clean someone else's house. If she cleaned your house while you weren't home, you might come home and think, wait, did she move a couch? Did she move a table? She loved to move furniture around. And when she came to dinner at your house, she wouldn't leave until Every last dish was in the dishwasher, and every last pan was in the drying rack. However, if you came to her house, she'd tell you not to worry about the dishes, to just sit down and enjoy yourself. She loved to sit down and have a cigarette and appreciate the small things, like the flowers in her backyard, the stars and the company that she was with. And my mom laughed a lot. My mom, her love language was food, and all of us know that. She was a feeder, and if you showed up to her house, it might go something like this. Hey, come on in, have a seat. Thanks, Lorraine. You hungry? What can I get you to eat? No, I'm fine, I just ate. Oh, what did you eat? A sandwich. How about dessert? You want a cookie? I got donuts, I got cake. Nah, just have a cookie. I just made them. They're so good. Well, okay. Let me give you something to drink. I'm good. How about a beer? I don't drink. I haven't drank since 1988. One ain't gonna hurt you. This is her, not me, okay? No, I don't drink. I'll have water. Water, blah. I have tea, orange juice, milk. I got Sprite, I got Pepsi. And of course, after eating your cookies and drinking something that wasn't water, you realized, wow, did I have room for that cookie and that Pepsi? But it was really good and it was really satisfying. I have so much respect for my mom's beautiful life. I love her story. I'm in awe of the way her life has impacted all the people she made laugh and just smile when they were around her. My brother and I are going to miss hearing my mom say, son, have a seat. Let me get you a plate. We have a song we want you to hear at this time.